The awakening. The void between stars held its breath as the Vashatari exploration fleet slipped out of hyperspace. Their massive vessels, gleaming constructs of crystal and living metal, formed a perfect geometric pattern as they approached the desolate planet. High Commander Genra stood motionless on the command deck of the flagship Eternal Light, her forearms folded behind her back, all three of her eyes fixed on the main view screen. "Curious," she said, her voice a melodic hum that resonated through the bridge. "This system was not marked for investigation in our archives." Senior Analyst Krell approached, his skin shifting from pale blue to deep purple, a sign of confusion among the Vashatari. "The beacon signal appeared only 3 cycles ago, Commander. It does not match any known civilization's communication patterns." The planet below was a study in contradictions. Its surface was scarred with ancient impact craters, suggesting a cataclysm in the distant past. Yet scattered across the barren landscape were structures of impossible geometry, pristine amid the desolation. "Deploy the survey teams," Genra ordered. "Full containment protocols. No direct contact until we understand what we're dealing with." The Vashatari had ruled their corner of the galaxy for over 12,000 years. Their technological prowess and diplomatic finesse had allowed them to assimilate or peacefully coexist with dozens of alien species. Yet something about this silent world sent a primal shiver through Genra's exoskeleton. 3 survey ships descended toward the planet's surface, their sensors probing the mysterious structures. The central command deck fell silent as the teams began transmitting their findings. "Commander," the lead surveyor's voice crackled over the comm. "We've located what appears to be an entrance. The architecture, it's unlike anything in our records, but there are symbols." The transmission wavered. They appeared to be human. A collective gasp rippled through the bridge. Humans were little more than a historical footnote, a promising species that had achieved rudimentary spaceflight before their homeworld was destroyed in an unexpected stellar event some 40 millennia ago. A few scattered colonies had persisted for a few thousand years afterward before fading into obscurity. "Impossible," Genra murmured. "Continue the investigation, but exercise extreme caution." The survey team transmitted images of a massive doorway embedded in a mountainside. Surrounding it were intricate engravings that the ship's AI confirmed were indeed a variant of ancient human script. "We're proceeding inside," the lead surveyor reported. "The doorway opened at our approach, some kind of automated system still functioning after all this time." The video feed showed a vast chamber illuminated by lights that activated as the team advanced. The walls were lined with what appeared to be stasis pods, thousands of them stretching into the darkness. "Life signs?" Genra demanded. "Negative, Commander, the pods are empty." As the survey team ventured deeper, they discovered a central control room. A holographic interface sprang to life as they entered, projecting symbols and diagrams that scrolled too quickly for the team to interpret. "We found something else," the surveyor reported, his voice tight with tension. "Some kind of data storage system. It appears to be—" The transmission suddenly cut off, replaced by static. "Restore communications," Genra ordered. The bridge. Technicians worked frantically, but the survey ships had gone completely dark. Then, without warning, the main view screen flickered and changed. Instead of showing the planet below, it displayed a single symbol, a stylized representation of a human hand, palm outward. Beneath it, words appeared in perfect Vashatari script. "We have been waiting." The awakening begins. Alarms blared across the command deck as sensors detected energy surges across the planet's surface. The supposedly dead world was coming alive. "Battle stations," Genra commanded. "Prepare for possible hostile." Her words died in her throat as the ship's systems began to behave erratically. Lights dimmed and brightened in patterns that hurt the eyes. The ship's AI spoke in fragmented, distorted voices, repeating the same phrase in different languages. "They are returning. They never left. They are everywhere." Krell's skin had turned ash-gray, the Vashatari equivalent of extreme fear. "Commander, something is infiltrating our systems. It's like nothing I've ever seen." It's not attacking, it's transforming. On the view screen, the symbol changed, expanding into a complex three-dimensional fractal that seemed to reach out of the display itself. Many of the bridge crew averted their eyes, experiencing intense vertigo. "It's a beacon," whispered one of the xenolinguists who had been working to interpret the human symbols. "They're calling to someone, or something." Deep within the ship, previously undiscovered technology began to activate. Microscopic machines that had lain dormant for centuries, waiting for this precise signal. They had been planted on Vashitari ships generations ago, patient beyond imagining, programmed for this moment. In the void between the fleet's ships, space itself seemed to ripple and distort. Not the familiar signature of a hyperspace jump, but something more fundamental, as if reality were being rewritten. "Incoming," shouted the tactical officer. "Multiple contacts, but they're not registering on normal scanning frequencies." The view screen shifted again, showing the space around the fleet. Shapes were appearing, vessels of impossible configuration that seemed to phase in and out of existence. They moved with perfect precision, surrounding the Vashitari ships in a three-dimensional lattice. No weapons were fired, no communications were attempted. The alien vessels simply held position, a silent demonstration of absolute control over the situation. Then, a new message appeared on the screen. 40,000 years ago, you knew us as human. We have become something else. But we remember. The message changed. You have awakened our waypoint. You will bear witness. Genra found her voice at last. "Open a communication channel," she ordered. "Identify ourselves as peaceful explorers." The attempt at communication received no direct response. Instead, the ship's database began to display information about humanity, not the limited historical records the Vashitari possessed, but detailed accounts of human achievements, their music, art, philosophy, and science. It was as if something wanted the Vashitari to understand what had been lost when Earth was destroyed. And then came the revelation that shook Genra to her core. New data streamed across the screens, evidence that Earth's destruction had not been a natural event at all, but a deliberate act of genocide by a species known as the Drakath, ancient rivals of the Vashitari who had mysteriously disappeared from the galactic stage 39,000 years ago. "This can't be," Krell whispered. "The Drakath were our allies before their disappearance. They would never..." But the evidence was overwhelming, presented with a clinical precision that left no room for denial. Historical records altered by the Drakath, weapon signatures disguised as natural phenomena, a conspiracy spanning millennia to hide their crime. The final piece of data was the most disturbing: the location of surviving human colonies that had escaped the cataclysm, and fragmentary records of their desperate plan, a plan spanning thousands of generations to evolve into something that could ensure such a tragedy would never happen again. A plan that was now, after 40,000 years, reaching its culmination. Outside the ships, the strange vessels began to move in unison, creating patterns of light and energy that seemed to tear at the fabric of space itself. A gateway was forming, a passage to somewhere beyond normal space. A final message appeared. The children of Earth have returned. What was hidden will be revealed. All debts will be paid. The gateway stabilized, a swirling vortex of energy unlike any known form of faster-than-light travel, and through it came something new. The sensors couldn't properly interpret what emerged. The closest description was humanoid figures composed of scintillating energy and matter in constant flux. They moved toward the Vashitari fleet with purpose, passing through shields and hulls, as if they were insubstantial. When they spoke, it was directly into the minds of everyone aboard. We are what humanity became when we left physical form behind. We have watched the galaxy from spaces between dimensions, waiting for the right moment to return. You have found our monument, our memory of what was taken from us. Now you will help us bring justice to those who thought us erased from existence. Genra, facing something beyond her comprehension, made the only choice she could. "We will listen," she said. "Tell us what you require." The response came not in words, but in a flood of images and emotions. The history of Earth, the brilliance and beauty of human civilization, the horror of its destruction, and the 40,000-year journey of revenge that was now approaching. Its conclusion: the children of Earth had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The encounter, the Vashatari fleet hung suspended in space, surrounded by vessels that defied conventional understanding. Inside the flagship Eternal Light, High Commander Genra faced the impossible, a being that claimed to be descended from humans, yet had evolved into something that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The entity called itself Meridian, and it appeared on the bridge as a vaguely humanoid figure, composed of flowing energy patterns that shifted between states of matter. When it spoke, everyone heard it in their native language, the words forming directly in their minds. "We have watched your civilization for 7,000 years, Meridian said. "The Vashtari are not like the Drakath. You build rather than destroy. This is why you were chosen." Krell, his skin now a mottled pattern of confusion and awe, dared to ask, "Chosen for what?" "To witness, to learn, to carry the truth when this is done." Meridian's form rippled. "Our story must be told." At Meridian's gesture, the bridge transformed around them. The Vashatari found themselves standing on what appeared to be the surface of ancient Earth, a blue-green jewel of a world teeming with life and the sprawling cities of a civilization in its prime. "This was our home," Meridian said, as the illusion, or was it a memory, showed them glimpses of human life, families in parks, scientists in laboratories, artists creating works of staggering beauty. We had just begun to reach for the stars. Our first colonies were established in nearby systems. We had made contact with several alien species, including the Drakath. The scene shifted to show diplomatic meetings between humans and the Drakath, reptilian, beings with iridescent scales and eyes that reflected starlight. They came as friends, offering technology and knowledge, Meridian continued. What we didn't know was that they had discovered something about human potential that terrified them. The illusion changed again, showing human researchers working with technology that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. Our minds were uniquely capable of comprehending higher dimensional mathematics. Given time, we would have naturally evolved to perceive and manipulate reality in ways the Drakath had been trying to achieve for millennia. They saw us as both a threat and an opportunity. The next scene was horrifying. A massive weapon of Drakath design disguised as a scientific outpost positioned near Earth's sun. "They triggered a cascading quantum resonance in our star," Meridian said, as they watched the sun flare and erupt, sending out waves of deadly radiation and stellar material that engulfed the inner planets. Billions died in minutes. Only our off-world colonies survived, a few million souls scattered across a dozen worlds. Genra felt sick witnessing this ancient atrocity. "How did you survive? How did you change?" The illusion shifted to show the survivors, humans gathering on distant worlds, their faces etched with grief and determination. "We made a choice," Meridian explained. "Not revenge, not immediately. First, we would ensure our survival by becoming something that could never be extinguished again. We would evolve beyond physical form, beyond the limitations of three-dimensional existence. What followed was a compressed history spanning thousands of years, generations of humans working toward a single goal, using genetic engineering, cybernetic enhancement, and finally the complete transcendence of biological form. It took 20,000 years, Meridian said. Those who began the work did not live to see its completion, but they passed down their purpose from generation to generation. And when we finally achieved transcendence, we discovered something unexpected. The illusion now showed beings of pure energy and thought, spreading their consciousness across dimensions, perceiving reality in ways impossible to fully comprehend. We could move backward and forward through time-like dimensions. We could exist in multiple states simultaneously. And we could see what the Drakath had done not just to us, but to countless other species. Images flashed of other worlds devastated. Other civilizations stunted or destroyed when they showed signs of developing abilities similar to humanity's. The Drakath believed themselves to be the rightful inheritors of transcendence. They saw any species with similar potential as competition, to be eliminated. After destroying Earth, they continued their campaign of subtle genocide for thousands of years. Genra found her voice. Until they disappeared 39,000 years ago. Meridian's form brightened. Yes, their disappearance was no accident. When we had evolved sufficiently, we confronted them. But rather than destroy them as they had tried to destroy us, we contained them. The illusion showed a massive construct hidden between dimensions, a prison of sorts, holding an entire civilization in stasis. For nearly 40,000 years, they have been suspended there, unable to harm anyone else. We used this time to prepare the galaxy for their judgment. The waypoint you discovered was one of many we established, repositories of truth that would activate when the time was right. And now that time has come, Krell said, beginning to understand. Yes, Meridian confirmed. We have evolved far beyond our original nature, but we have not forgotten justice. The Drakath must answer for their crimes, not just against humanity, but against all species they harmed. And the galaxy must witness, so that such evil is never forgotten or repeated. What do you require of us? Genra asked. Your civilization now occupies the power vacuum left by the Drakath. You have built alliances where they sowed destruction. You are respected across known space. Meridian's form contracted slightly. We need you to summon representatives from all major galactic civilizations to witness the trial of the Drakath. Without witnesses, without acknowledgement, there can be no true justice, only revenge. The illusion faded, returning them to the bridge of the eternal light. But something had changed. The ship's systems had been upgraded, enhanced by technology, beyond Vashitari understanding. We have modified your communication systems, Meridian explained. You can now broadcast across the galaxy instantaneously. Send the call. Bring the witnesses. In 3 days, we will return the Drakath to normal spacetime, and justice will finally be served. As Meridian prepared to depart, Genra asked one final question. After 40,000 years, why now? Why not earlier or later? Meridian's form paused at the threshold between dimensions. Because only now has the galaxy evolved to a point where it can understand what truly happened. Only now are there enough species capable of comprehending the higher realities, where such crimes can never be hidden. And only now have we evolved enough to deliver justice without becoming the monsters we oppose. With that, Meridian and the IV, other post-human entities vanished, leaving behind only their impossible ships maintaining their vigil around the Vashitari fleet. Genra stood silent for a long moment, absorbing the weight of what she had learned and what was being asked of her civilization. Then she turned to her communications officer. Send the call, she ordered, to every world, every species, every corner of known space. Tell them that a 40,000-year-old crime is about to be answered for, and history itself hangs in the balance. As the message went out, rippling across the galaxy at speeds thought impossible, the crew of the Eternal Light watched the mysterious vessels outside. For the first time, they understood that they were not just witnessing the return of a species, thought lost to time. They were standing at the threshold of a new era for all civilization. Humanity had not just survived, it had transcended, and now it had returned to rewrite the course of galactic history. The reckoning, 3 days later, the space around the desolate planet bloomed with life. Thousands of ships from hundreds of civilizations had answered the Vashitari's call, creating a vast impromptu gathering of species that had never before assembled in one place. Some were ancient allies, others bitter rivals. Yet all had been drawn by the incredible story Genra had broadcast. The tale of Earth's destruction and humanity's 40,000-year journey toward justice. Aboard the Eternal Light, now serving as the central coordination point for this unprecedented gathering, Genra watched the final preparations with a mixture of awe and apprehension. All delegations have been accommodated, Krell reported. The transcendence technology provided by the humans has allowed us to create a shared perception field. Every representative will witness the proceedings as if they were physically present, regardless of atmospheric requirements or physical limitations. Genra nodded, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the assembled fleet. And the Drakath containment field? The humans, or rather, the post-humans, have confirmed it will be transferred to normal space-time precisely, on schedule. They've created a theater of sorts, for lack of a better term, a space where the trial can unfold. The theater was visible on the displays, a massive structure that had seemingly been constructed overnight, floating in space near the planet. It defied conventional architecture, parts of it extending into dimensions that the Vashtari could only partially perceive. At its center was an empty void waiting to be filled. "It is time," came Meridian's voice, as the post-human entity appeared on the bridge. No longer trying to maintain a humanoid appearance, Meridian now existed as a complex pattern of energy and information, beautiful and terrifying in its complexity. "Are the witnesses ready?" "They are," Genra confirmed, "though many are afraid." The Drakath are remembered in legend across much of the galaxy. To learn they still exist. "Fear is appropriate," Meridian acknowledged. The Drakath were architects of suffering on a scale few can comprehend, but today, that legacy ends. At precisely the appointed moment, the void at the center of the theater began to distort. Space itself seemed to fold inward, creating a passage between dimensions. And through this impossible doorway came the Drakath. Their ships emerged first, hundreds of them, black and angular, designs that had passed into ancient history. Then came the Drakath themselves, transported directly into the theater's central chamber, visible to all through the perception field. They were just as the historical records depicted, reptilian humanoids with iridescent scales that shifted, color with their moods, eyes like polished obsidian reflecting starlight. Their leaders wore elaborate regalia that had not been seen in the galaxy for nearly 40 millennia. The Drakath Supreme Commander, a towering figure named Vex Har, looked around in confusion that quickly turned to rage as he realized what had happened. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice translated and broadcast to all witnesses. "By what right do you imprison the Drakath Dominion?" Meridian and dozens of other post-human entities surrounded the chamber, their forms shifting between states of matter and energy. "By the right of the dead," Meridian answered, the words echoing across space. "By the right of Earth and 100 other worlds you destroyed or stunted. By the right of justice 40,000 years delayed." Confusion flickered across Vex Har's features. 40,000, impossible, we were just... He fell silent as understanding dawned. "The humans, you were nothing but primitives barely capable of interstellar travel." "We were a young species with unlimited potential," Meridian corrected. "Potential you feared enough to commit genocide. What followed was unlike any trial in galactic history." The post-humans presented their evidence not through testimony or documentation, but through direct sensory input, allowing every witness to experience the memories preserved across 40 millennia. They felt Earth's destruction as if they had been there, experienced the suffering of the survivors, witnessed the Drakath's calculated campaigns against other promising species. The Drakath leaders, trapped in the containment field, could not deny what was so clearly revealed, but Vexhar, defiant to the end, showed no remorse. "We did what was necessary," he declared. "Transcendence belongs to the Drakath alone. It was our destiny, not yours. If we had not acted, you would have evolved beyond us, replaced us. Everything we did was for the survival of our kind. And yet," Meridian responded, "it is we who transcended, while you remained frozen in time, prisoners of your own fear and hatred." Genra, watching from the eternal light, felt a chill. The post-humans possessed power beyond comprehension. They could obliterate the Drakath with a thought. What would justice look like to beings who had evolved so far beyond their original nature? Meridian sensed her concern. "We did not bring them here for revenge," The post-human communicated directly to her mind. Watch. The theater's configuration changed. The containment field holding the Drakath expanded, creating a perfect replica of their homeworld as it had existed 40,000 years ago. Your punishment is not death, Meridian announced to the Drakath and all witnesses. Death would be too simple, too final. Instead, you will be given the opportunity to evolve beyond what you are, beyond the fear and hatred that defined your civilization. The post-humans surrounded the containment field, their energy patterns shifting into new configurations. We will restore you to your homeworld, preserved exactly as it was when we removed you from normal space-time. But with one difference. Meridian's form brightened. The dimensional barriers that prevented you from achieving true transcendence. Barriers you tried to overcome by eliminating competitors rather than through your own evolution, will be lifted. Confusion rippled through the Drakath assembly. You will have the potential to evolve as we did, Meridian continued, but you will do so under observation. For 10,000 years, you will be quarantined within your home system, mentored by those you once sought to destroy. You will learn what you could have become had you chosen cooperation instead of genocide. Vexhar's scales darkened with rage. You would make us your prisoners, your students. The Drakath bow to no one. Not prisoners, Meridian corrected. Students, yes. But ultimately, you will determine your own fate. If, after 10,000 years, you have evolved beyond the impulses that led you to commit such atrocities, you will be welcomed back into the galactic community, not as conquerors, but as equals. The sentence pronounced, the post-humans enacted their judgment. The containment field with its replica of the Drakath homeworld was transported to its original location in space, surrounded by a subtle barrier that would allow communication, but prevent the Drakath from threatening other worlds. As the witnesses watched, Meridian addressed them directly. Let this stand as both warning and promise. Warning that genocide, no matter how well hidden, will never go unanswered, and promise that even the darkest acts can be countered not with destruction, but with the opportunity for transformation. The theater dissolved, its purpose fulfilled. Throughout the assembled fleet, representatives of 100 species contemplated what they had witnessed. Justice on a scale spanning millennia, delivered by beings who had transcended hatred without forgetting their humanity. On the bridge of the eternal light, Genra turned to Meridian. What happens now? Will you return to wherever you have been these 40,000 years? Meridian's form shifted, becoming briefly more humanoid. Some of us will continue to monitor the Drakath, guiding their evolution if they allow it. Others will return to exploring the higher dimensions. But many of us have decided it is time to rejoin the physical universe. You would live among us? Krell asked, astonished. Not precisely as you live, Meridian explained. We exist differently now, but we wish to share knowledge, to help the galaxy avoid the mistakes of the past. There is so much potential in so many species, potential that should be nurtured, not feared. In the days that followed, as the gathered fleets dispersed to their home systems carrying the story of what they had witnessed, the post-humans made good on their word. They established outposts throughout known space, not as rulers or conquerors, but as teachers and guides. They shared technologies that healed, rather than harmed, knowledge that united rather than divided. Species that had been at war for generations found common ground in the wisdom offered by these beings who had once been human, but had become something both more and less than their original form. And sometimes, on worlds where the night sky was particularly clear, people would look up and see strange lights moving between the stars. The descendants of Earth, watching over the galaxy that had once nearly forgotten them. Humanity had returned, not with the revenge that might have consumed a lesser species, but with a justice tempered by 40,000 years of evolution and reflection. They had transformed tragedy into transcendence, and in doing so, changed the course of galactic history forever. The message they brought was simple, yet profound. No matter how long it takes, justice will find its way. And those who bring destruction will ultimately face a choice: to evolve beyond their darkest impulses, or be left behind by those who already have. In the vastness of space, on 1,000 worlds, people of all species looked to the stars with new eyes, wondering what humanity might become in the next 40,000 years, and what they themselves might evolve to be, now that the children of Earth had returned to light the way forward.